So hey guys, welcome to the channel Learning Competitive Programming with CodeChef. So if you want to learn competitive programming and master data structures and algorithm, this is the prime location for you. Right, every week there are several videos on the editorials of CodeChef contest as well as conceptual videos on various topics which enhance your learning in competitive programming. So if you're new to the channel, then please do subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification. So myself, Chirayu Jain, I'm a CodeChef educator, and the problem that we are going to take today is no time to wait. The prerequisite of the problem is done. Okay guys, so let's read the problem statement, right? So what is the problem? That only X hours are left for the March Long challenge and the chef is only left with one last problem. That's great, which is unsolved. However, he's sure that he cannot solve the problem in the remaining time. Okay, so from his experience, he figures out that he need exactly H hours to solve the problem, right? So we have been mentioned that how many hours are required to solve the problem, that is H hours, right? And how many hours are left for the March Long challenge, that is X hours, right? So now chef finally decides to use his special power, right, which he has gained throughout the intense yoga. That's all the stuff which determines the problem story, right? So he can travel back in the time when he concentrates. So specifically, what is the important statement over here? That his power allows him to travel to n different time zones, that is T1 till Tn hours, right? So he can go back in what respective time zones, that are still T1 till Tn. So here are the values given, right? So he can go, like for example here, 1 hour before or 2 hours before, right, respectively behind his current time, right? From the current time he can go this much time prior or before, right? Find out whether chef can use one of the available time zones to solve the problem and submit it before the contest ends. So we need to find that whether the chef is able to solve that particular last problem before the contest ends. So here are some constraints given. So obviously we can easily get to know that X should be less than H. Why? Because the hours, remaining hours for the March Long challenge, if they are less than the hours that are required to solve the problem, then only chef will require to go to prior time zones. Otherwise he would have solved the problem, right? So X is always less than H. So let's see what is the input given to us. That is 2, 5 and 3. So what we have been given, we have been given the values of N, H and X, correct? And these are T1 and T2 which are mentioned in the problem, that are the respective time zones. Okay, so let's see how we can just get to this particular sample input. So if we have these two values that are 1 and 2, 1 hour before or 2 hour before the respective time, the current time, right? So H denotes the hours required to solve the problem and X denotes the number of hours left for the problem, right? So there are 3 hours left for the March Long challenge to end, and there are 5 hours required to solve this particular problem, right? So if I go 1 hour prior, and take this time, that is the X which is given to me, which is the time that is the time left for the contest, right? So if I go 1 hour prior and this time is left for the challenge from the current time, right? So the total number of hours which will be left for me is 4 hours, because I go 1 hour prior from the current time, and from the current time 3 hours are left. So total number of hours will be the summation of these two, the current time, the previous hour which can the previous hours which can I go, and the hours which are required for the March Long challenge from the current time. So there are 4 hours required, correct? Similarly here, if I go 2 hours prior and from the current time there are 3 hours left, so how many number of hours I have in space? That is 5 hours, correct? So for the first thing, 4 hours are not sufficient to solve the problem because the value of H is 5. And in the second case, 5 hours are sufficient to solve the problem because the problem requires the value of H is 5, right? So this is matched. So for the second time zone, if chef will go 2 hours prior and 3 hours are vacant enough for the March Long challenge to end, so 2 plus 3 will result to 5. So that is the value of H, right? So yes, the output will be YES, yes. Otherwise the output would have been known if there are certain time zones which do not fulfill the condition, right? So this is all about the problem statement, right? So it's an easy problem. So let's, without wasting any further time on this explanation, let's directly jump to the approach of this particular problem. So if you are able to get the approach, if you are not able to solve this problem on the March Long challenge, and if you are now something clear with the approach, so you can try the problem first, right? Otherwise we will go for the approach of this particular problem, right? Okay guys, so let's discuss the approach. The approach is quite similar that we have discussed in the problem understanding as well, right? So it is a very easy problem. Let's see and quickly clear out the approach, right? So we have been given n, h and x, right? N, h and x, correct? And the respective time zones from t1 till tn. Okay, so the problem is that whether we are going to solve this problem, whether we have enough time to solve this problem, that is h hours that we have been given, right? So what is the solution? We can go ti times prior. For a particular ith value, we can go ti times prior, and also x hours are left from the current time. So this is the current time. Let us say this is the current time, and we can go ti times prior, and x hours are also left for the contest, right? So in total, how much time is left? That is the summation of these two values, that is ti plus x, right? So for each time zone, what we need to do, that if this ti plus x time is greater than or equal to h hours which are left, right? So if this condition holds true for any of the time zone, then what we will do? We'll do yes, right? And otherwise there is no time zones which fulfills this condition, will output no. Why this condition? Because we have ti times, we can go before the current time, that is ti time, right? And we have x hours left. Total time will be this. If this time is greater than or equal to this h hours which are required to solve the problem, that means we have a perfect time zone to solve the problem. Otherwise we would not have that, right? So if any of for any of the time zone this condition holds true, we'll output yes, otherwise we'll output no. So that's it. That's the problem that we have, correct? So this is a simple problem. Now let's quickly jump onto the coding section, that how we can form the code of this particular problem, right? Okay, so we are forming this code on CodeChef ID, so you can also form code over there. And one small request, so before going through the code analysis, just try to code the solution on your own. This develops a good practice for you to understand the language better, right? And it's always a best practice, right, to just form the code according to your own thinking, right? And if you're not able to form the code, then please look at the solution. Okay, so what we have been mentioned in the question, first of all, we'll input three things, that is n, h and x, right? So let's see, int n, h and x, we'll input these things. So c in n, c in h, c in x. Now we have been given n time zones, right? So we'll use a for loop over here, sorry, a for loop. After that, for int I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, right? For each for loop we have been given one time zone, right? So we'll take a value, that is n to be, and we'll input that. So this is a particular ith time zone. What we need to do, we need to check one simple condition, that if this time that we are getting v, let's say v, plus x that we have, the hours remaining, is greater than equal to h, that means if this condition holds true, that means we got our answer and we'll output yes. So for these conditions, what we do, like if any of this thing holds true, then the answer must be yes. Otherwise, if all of them does not hold this condition true, the answer would have been no. So what we do in these conditions, we use a variable flag, let's say f, and f equals to 0. So if any of the ith time zone strikes this condition, that means f will be equal to 1. So this flag, what it does is, it is a like counter. If this condition holds true, if it pinpoints to the correct result, then we have switched the value of 0 to 1. Otherwise, if none of the time zones would have hit this condition, the flag value would have been 0. This is the importance of flag. Whenever there is a problem which demands the concept of this particular thing, that if this condition holds true, then this answer would have been this. Otherwise, the answer would have been known. So we generally use flag over this, right? So this is a small thing. And so this, if flag is equals to 1, so if f equals 1, Then what we'll do, we'll output yes. So let's say capital yes. Otherwise, the answer will be no. Correct. This is a small, sorry. So handle will be like this. Correct. So this is the code of this particular problem, right? So now what we can do is we can try this code on the CodeChef platform and we can submit this, right? Let's try to submit this code on the CodeChef platform. Important update: if you want to get master and solve these problems in very less time and get a good hold on competitive programming, so what you can do, you can go to the Academy platform and register there for free. There is exclusive free content available over there, and where you can get a good guidance regarding all those difficult concepts for which you are not able to solve the problems, right? So what you can do, just go and download the Unacademy app. There you can go at the competitive programming zone and see a variety of videos from top educators across India, which are IOI gold medalists and the ICPC world champions. So go and download the Unacademy app. Okay, so let's submit the code that we have formed. The language is C++ and submit. And the solution is accepted.